ourselves a fresh page up, right? Good morning, good morning. Good morning. All right, what are we looking at today? That's interesting. All right, let's go with that. We'll start with that. Seems like a good place as any. Right? Try a little something different today, too. Start over here, I guess. All right. Good morning, good morning. Back to school day for me. First day of classes. We're excited about that. So, definitely excited for that. Got some fun stuff we're doing this semester. It is nice sketching from some Pinterest reference here, how they made it possible to get rid of all Gen AI content off your feed. And I really haven't seen much in a long time. Because a lot of users kind of go through and tag things that they think are and remove it from their feed, and then it kind of reports it back so that it's clean. Right? So I like that. Zoom in here, huh? Trying to get the general thing down, and then try out some stuff here. Nothing that exciting, just see if I can avoid making too much of a mess. All right. All right, let's see. I'll put a little splash of color on here. Let's see what I got in terms of inks. I'm going to use those. Those. Okay. Non-sommelier type inks. Let's just switch to this for my well. So it would make certain things easier with that. That might go with these ones, I think. Just to try and incorporate this guy more and more into my sketching here. fix whatever problem I caused myself. Okay, all right. Let's see how this goes, right? I'll do it a little bit. Let's see how it looks. There we go. Yeah. Contrast it a little bit. Doesn't take a lot, huh? There we go. And let's just try. That one quick. Some water in here. Should be okay. Good morning over there on is that Twitch? Thanks for the comment. Actually, I might to pour out a cup. Grab my cup anyway. I don't mind my new airbrush skills. I picked up an airbrush last year and a half ago, and never got around to using it. Get this thing turned on too. Yeah, look at that. Get these bubbles dried out real quick. Doing some morning study, experiment with different media, try things out, see how it goes. So, all right, where were we? We were going to. What are we going to use today? I might just go with this guy. My Type C nib here. I guess I could zoom in on top, huh? Move it over a little bit. There we go. Is that better? That's better. I've got to move that paper towel holder closer. This is too far away. Good idea? Which one? Try out new things or... Let's see. Good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Today is go back to work day. I got classes starting up today. I'm going to get some assignment stuff written up for the students. And good morning. Good morning, Arcade Designer. How are we doing? I all missed the airbrush sequence. I wanted to incorporate airbrush more into my process. And part of like these doodle pages I like to do where I kind of fill up a page as like a media exploration. And so picked up an airbrush a year and a half ago. Barely used it. Complete neophyte when it comes to it. Just nothing I've had any experience with. How are we doing here? Is there any affordable equipment to start drawing? I believe there is. You can get a pack of paper for a few dollars, and you can get a pencil for very cheap, right? Might need a pencil sharpener, but that's a lot, to keep to start. You don't need anything fancier than that. Um, when I was a kid, growing up, um, what I always got from my parents for both Christmas and for my birthdays was a ream of paper. So, a stack of, we call it typing paper back then, but copy paper, printer paper, whatever you want to call it. I'd get that, and they would also get me a pack of Uniball .5 pens. So I like those to draw with at the time. They're probably still fine. But yeah, you don't need anything fancy. Some of the most important things in terms of art and illustration in the world have all been done on very basic materials. Someone was asking that question over on one of the other streaming services. I go on Kick. What do they need to learn to draw? What equipment? That's all you need. A sketchbook is handy, but not necessary. Just because you can carry it around real easy. But you can get like a cheap clipboard and just clip typing paper to it or printer paper, and that'll get you a long way. Unless there's something very specific you want to do, um, that's more than good enough. So, yeah, don't hesitate to ask questions when you're here. I don't mind talking and drawing at the same time. I'm kind of used to it as a teacher. I do slow down when I'm talking, but other than that, it's no big deal for me. So how's that for a answer to that question over there? What's it? Blocks 2, if that is a real name. I am doubting that. Yeah, but that's all you really need, just paper. Theory's fine, if you're looking, depending on what you're looking to improve, there's different activities you can do. Um, if you haven't done a lot of it, I would just like keep a sketchbook of everything you see around you all the time. Pens can be really good to work with because it kind of forces you to develop economy of line, which you can't undo, and so you really have to pay attention to what you're doing. So pens can be really good to practice with, especially not ballpoint pens, but actual ink pens that leave a heavy mark. Yeah, but there's a million things you can do um, once you've got the tools. Pencils are great though too. It's a basic number 2 yellow pencil from school. There's fancier ones you can get, like the Mitsubishi Uni pencils in different grades. But if getting the right tools is holding you back, then that's just don't do that. Um, just get something really basic. So yeah, don't like I'm using a Type C calligraphy nib here with Kohinoor uh, black ink, and I use some airbrush on here as well. But again, like none of that's required. There, that's better. So yeah, for sure. How about drawing style? So what do you mean by that? By drawing style? I think tools definitely influence drawing style. If that's the question. I know they do for me. Like using this nib I'm using right here definitely affects how I draw. And that varies from tool to tool. But if you're talking about like drawing in manga or comic books or Jim Lee or whatever, that's a whole other question. One thing I always like to say is that it can be very harmful to the development of your voice as an artist to focus a lot on drawing style too early. In fact, I don't even like the word style when I think about teaching or drawing. I always say like approach or method over style. Because style is kind of the thing that develops as you learn new things and you try new things. And if you want it to be your own unique thing, then if you focus too much on becoming a particular thing, then you can actually kill the authentic style that would emerge from you. But in terms of developing your own style, I would collect things that you like, from a broad range of categories. So a lot of people they're really into the manga, right? There's nothing wrong with it. My concerns mean it is that if you focus too much on it, it can harm your voice. Um, yeah, well, except I picked up a airbrush a while ago. Been trying to find way. Oh, well, there's things I wanted to do with it, like there's splattering techniques you can do with it, and or the tones that I can throw in here. If I was doing this on like a regular page, I'd probably you know set it up so that it is masked off certain areas, like I would with a other things. But but yeah, in terms of drawing style, you know, people tend to categorize it in different ways, like realism versus cartoony versus manga style versus chiaroscuro versus. There's a whole bunch of different categories you can kind of break it into. But I would just look, as you're paying. One of the things that's great about social media, one of the few things, is exposes you to a broad variety of things depending on how you're looking at it. Um, One thing I would do in terms of research, though, is I would try and figure out what inspired the people that inspired you. So, for example, when I was a college student a long time ago, the prequel movies for Star Wars are coming out. I didn't much like the movies, like many people. We had our complaints about them, but I really did like the art of books. And in there was artist Eric Tiemens, and he did these really beautiful gouache landscapes and watercolor landscapes in there as concept art. He later switched to digital in the second movie, but in the first movie, everything in the book is uh, traditional or analog media. And I saw a similar thing in the Lord of the Rings art of books that were also coming out at the same time. And it's like, oh, what is this? So I'd never studied landscape painting, had never really thought about it very much. Um, and so that led me into trying out landscape painting. I never had any classes in it, never had any teachers for it. Um, well, that's the thing. One of the things that digital does is it limits your view of what's possible for you. Uh, in a lot of ways, it can say, oh, because you only see it done digitally, and because it is technically easier to do things digitally, um, it actually can get in your way because it says, oh, I can't do X, Y, or Z. Like I could do all this very easily digitally, right? So you get the airbrush out and the splatter brush. You can make your own. Um, and I've done a ton of digital art over the years, and but gradually, I think part of it's coming. It's kind of always been there because I've always done a mixed approach where I've always had both. Um, but the let's see. Yeah, like one thing I was trying to learn to calibrate with the spray the airbrush is how much ink I need to put in for just a small amount of work. And so like I put in probably twice as much as I need to. I probably just needed a couple drops. Um, but I don't have enough experience to know exactly how things work yet. So that's part of the reason I want to bring it out is say, oh, okay, well this is how much I need for this. This is how much I need for that, and do that. Um, yeah, but in terms of style, the main thing is I would try and pull from a broad variety of things that inspire you, whether that's photography or architecture, not just other artists, especially living artists. Go and see real things, look at the real world, look at the people that inspired the people. If you can figure it out. So in the case of Eric Tiemens, I was looking at his work, and from him I discovered this group of painters called the Hudson River Painters, who were a group of American landscape painters, which I was largely unfamiliar with in the middle to late 19th century, starting with a guy named Thomas Cole. He died a little young, but there's a whole bunch of artists that came after him that did all these really incredible dynamic and atmospheric paintings. And he's also, Tim is also looking at Turner, James Turner. But being able to kind of figure out where things come from and why, um, can add a lot to your work. So not just looking at what is now, but what came before and how it affects things now, uh, can add a lot of authenticity to your work. And so, for example, the Hudson River painters, what they did, it actually sounds a lot like concept art to a certain degree. If you go look up like a Frederick Church painting, um, that's fine. What is your first language? What is your mother tongue? But so I try to speak slow on here too, knowing it's an international audience. But what they would do is they would go on location and they would, do drawings and paintings and studies. So they would actually bring their paint box with them, and then they would, paint on site. Spanish. They would paint on site, and then do their drawings on site. In fact, in their drawings, if you look at their sketchbooks, they would make notes about the color and the atmosphere and the texture, written notes, like not just verbal notes, but written ones, to kind of comment on um, what was going on, when they were outside observing nature. And good morning. Um, yeah, so they would comment on that, and then they would take all of that information they had gathered, from being outside, inside, and make these massive kind of grand paintings based off of that. Um, it's usually considered the best. Um, so it's considered the first, not best. The first, like, real, authentically American art movement is the Hudson River group. I'm doing good. Just, classes start today. I've got some assignments to write up. I know what I want to do for him. I just got to write them up. You probably just heard him shake his head. He's coming over here, I think. Where'd you go, Bosch? Where'd you go in the other room? Sometimes he's like, it's too much. I'm going to go in the other room and sleep. He did only want a short WALK today, though, so I'm not sure what was up with that. We got like a block away, and he's like, can we go home? All right. We did get up a little bit earlier, but, maybe that's why he was not wanting to be out so long. He was having feelings the other day, so we went for a WALK and then came back. He only wanted to go. He only went like a block and a half. He's like, I want to go home. All right. He came home, and then he went and hid upstairs for the rest of the day after eating his dinner. He was having feelings, I think. I was worried he'd like stepped on something or got sick, but he wasn't limping. I checked his feet. Well, if I say it, you know what happens, right? Oh, there's Bosch. Welcome back. He just came over here to crawl under my feet. He went to go drink of water or something like that. So I'll say that headphones on. But yeah, because he knows what certain words mean. Obviously, right? He's not. Dogs. They have different value sets. They're not stupid. They're not maybe as smart as humans are, but you know they know what they want. They know when they want it. They know how they like it. They value what they value. Well, he'll only figure that out if I use that in the context, right? So if I use that word, if I spell that out when we do that, then he'll figure it out. But if I don't, then I should be okay. I think. Let's see, keeps drifting. Up, and there we go. Up, down, over. There we go. But yeah, I've been busy the last couple months, so I haven't been online very much. I haven't posted very much. Um, so, um, but I'm back. If everything can settle down, I don't have to worry about some of the things I was having to worry about. Um, Basically, early mid December, well, the 11th of December to be exact, um, my father passed away. Um, so we had a funeral and I was helping take care of things around my mom's house, and then I had a bunch of school stuff I had to take care of for my tenure track application. What doesn't happen for a couple of years, but I have to go through this review process. And so had to do a bunch of that paperwork. And so when I got back, I had to lock into that. That always takes a while because I don't like doing paperwork at all. And let's get these circles on here. Huh? So took a little while, and then I've been trying to get back into my comic project, among other things. So it's been a busy bit. Let's see which one of the circle types are. Make sure this is working good. For me, it's first thing in the morning. It is 8 o'clock. I have class to teach in the afternoon, so it's also my back to school day. Let's see, our circle is over here. So, um, yeah, so trying to rub back in. So I've been working on that. Seen those live streams from yesterday. I've been working on inking that larger piece. What is the hardest human part to draw? I'd say most people would say the portrait. And the main reason, it's not so much that it's harder or easier than other things, but the portrait and the expressions with it, because we care so much about human faces, that if you draw a face wrong, so it doesn't necessarily mean like, you don't necessarily make it look like a specific person, but if you're trying to do that, it's part of it too. But when you draw bad faces, people notice. So it's important to uh, understand and do that correctly because people will notice right away. And so portraits are always hardest. And then followed up by that would be hands. And then I'd say the overall gesture. So getting a sense of movement and flow off a figure can be a real challenge. So those are the top three. So portrait, hands, and gesture. Communicating an action. Yeah, it's funny on that topic. I've been talking about this a couple times. I saw this artist who does a lot of online courses and tutorials and things like that, and he was saying, "Oh, you don't need to know anatomy. You just need to know the major forms." And I looked at that and I'm like, that's like a half truth at best. Like, it's definitely not accurate. You want to know more. You want to know, you want to know your anatomy. You want to know the names of most of the visible body parts because if you can see them, you can name them, then you have an easier time remembering to draw them and what they look like and how they work. The same as it's easier to have a positive relationship with another human being if you know their name, right? Um, because a lot of times if you just focus on superficial style, you might get there, but you don't actually understand what it is you're looking at. And developing that understanding is actually important because it gives you opportunity for you to develop your voice. And again, if you can see something, you can deal with it. You know how to render it. You can draw it, etc. But again, I couldn't believe he was just like, yeah, just you don't need to know that. You just need to know blah 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 blah. I'm like, I think there's levels of understanding and knowing, right? So you want to um, there's things that are more worth knowing in different phases. Like I think it's worth starting off with a general understanding of the underlying stick figure of a mannequin of a figure. It's a good place to start. A line of action, and then using the mannequin to memorize some of the major landmarks can also be really beneficial. And we got ourselves a bot over there. Huh? Get rid of that bot real quick. Just ban it. Block. So, so that's what I would say. That would be my answer to that question. What part do you have the hardest time with? Let's see. Where's the white? So, um, yeah. But in terms of practicing that kind of thing, obviously, it's best to do it from life. But if you don't have access to that, um, it's just it's okay for general practice, but getting photo references or other things can be helpful to a certain degree. Um, anatomy books are really helpful. The big thing is just kind of applying what you know, what you learned, to the things that you actually want to do. Right? For concept art, for Photoshop tutorials, there's a ton of them out there, right? I've pretty much stopped using Photoshop for the most part about a year ago. Um, for free stuff, for illustration for free stuff, there's GIMP. Kind of big update. I haven't tried it yet, but it seems like they were pretty excited about that. And then there's also Krita, very popular. I see Dave Raposa using Krita all the time. And these are all desktop ones, of course, we're talking about, first of all. Then for paid stuff, or another free one actually to really consider that I've been using, I actually paid for, and then they released a year or so ago, and then they released a free version at the end of October, and that's Affinity Studio. It's a combination. It used to be three separate programs, and they combined them into one. So it's basically a combo of Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, which you can see being really handy, right? Um, and so it just kind of swaps tool sets. Anyway, when they originally released, when I picked up version 2, basically you could swap tool sets by pressing some buttons at the top, and now they've kind of formalized it into one. And it used to be paid, but they got bought by Canva uh, last year sometime, I think, or a year and a half ago, which I didn't like. Obviously, Canva's a big into AI and whatnot. But anyway, what they want you to do is pay for a Canva subscription to access their generative AI tools inside of Affinity. And I don't want those, so it's just free. You do create a Canva account, but the program itself is free. And that version, I guess, is free forever. So version 3. It's supposed to be bringing version 3 to the iPad, so it works exactly the same on the iPad as it does on the desktop. Which is really nice. And then but it's nice because you can like if you wanted to build a comic or if even like a presentation style concept art thing, you could do all of your painting, your drawing, you could do vectors all at the same time inside of one application without having to switch tools or wait for the Creative Cloud to update things. So that one's been really nice. And then all the brushes that you use in Photoshop, they also work in it pretty much, I think, the same. I haven't tried illustrating in it yet. Um, but It has adjustment layers. It has all the usual things that you would mostly use in Photoshop, but it's free. Clip Studio is probably the most popular one though, and that's paid, obviously. I still like Corel Painter. I'm running version 2019, so I don't know how the newer ones compare. I don't think they haven't really done significant upgrades to Painter in a long time. But so that's what I recommend on the desktop. On the iPad, of course, people like Procreate a lot. I like to use an app called Infinite Painter a bit more. It has some additional kind of perspective and perspective guided drawing in there that you don't get in other applications. Like if you draw with a circle tool, it'll draw with the brush that you have selected, but it'll also snap that brush to the perspective. So if you draw a circle in perspective, it'll draw it as an ellipse correctly. Um, so those two are really good. I think Art Studio Pro is still around. I used to use that one a lot. Obviously, Procreate's the most popular one. Um, so yeah. So that's what I would recommend. So for free stuff, there's Krita, GIMP, and then there's this Affinity program that I think all work really, really, really well. And definitely would help with that. Krita has a lot of unique brushes and things in it too. If you go watch like Dave Raposa's stream, he shows you like he's got a spider web brush and some other things in there. I think Affinity's got a lot of that too. Infinity, Infinite Painter, sorry, has a lot of that too. But let's see, I guess I should write on here. We're going to fill up another packed page with stuff. That's what the goal here is with this. So this is 26, right? 01, 1, 3, and this comes from in ref. So that's what I would say are the ones to go with these days. But more and more, I've been trying to do more analog media, especially in this day and age with the nonsense going on with generative AI. I think it helps to have something real. So anyway, that's it for this morning's warm up. I got work to do, and we'll catch you all later.